What if the part of you you've spent your whole life avoiding holds the very power you've been searching for? In the quiet hours of ancient temples, behind the veils of mystical schools, there was a practice spoken of in whispers. A ritual known not for light, but for darkness. Not for escape, but for embrace. It was called by many names, but at its core, it was the sacred art of shadow merging. This was not about confronting your fear. It was about becoming it. Not to be consumed, but to transform. To transmute the buried, denied, and repressed into pure, awakened energy. Modern spirituality often preaches light, love, and positivity. But the ancients knew that true power lies where we least want to look. In the shadows we cast and the ones that cling silently behind us. Carl Jung, the modern mystic of the psyche, once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." But what does it mean to make the darkness conscious? And more importantly, what happens when we don't just observe our shadow, but merge with it? In this video, we will unveil a forgotten spiritual practice that goes far beyond mere shadow work. You'll discover the origins of shadow merging in ancient mystical systems, explore its philosophical depth, and most importantly, learn how to begin practicing it in your own life. We'll discuss why fear, rage, lust, jealousy, and shame are not your enemies, but your teachers. We'll uncover how these so-called dark forces contain dormant life force, and how integrating them can unlock dormant power, profound peace, and real inner freedom. So if you're ready to stop running from the darkness, and instead walk directly into it with your eyes open and your soul awakened, then stay with me. The forgotten art of shadow merging is waiting to be remembered. Long before psychology gave it a name, the shadow was known to mystics, seers, and initiates. They did not call it trauma, repression, or ego defense. They called it the dweller at the threshold, the guardian of the gate, the black sun hidden within. To enter the mysteries, one had to confront this entity, not as a metaphor, but as a real force within the psyche and soul. Because in every true initiatory path, there comes a moment when the seeker must meet the mirror of their own suppressed nature. In the Hermetic traditions, this concept was hidden beneath the maxim, "As above, so below, as within, so without." It was understood that divinity could not be fully known while parts of the self remained fragmented and disowned. In alchemy, the process of individuation was not a simple ascent. It began in Nigredo, the black phase, a spiritual rotting, a descent into chaos. The alchemist had to face the shadow of the material and the spiritual to dissolve false identities and bring forth the prima materia, the true raw substance of transformation. Even in ancient Egypt, the concept of the Kaibit, the shadow self, was acknowledged. The Kaibit was not a demon to be banished, but a part of the soul to be reconciled and integrated, lest it follow the soul into the afterlife and weigh it down in the judgment halls of Ma'at. The Sufis taught that the nafs, our lower self, driven by desire, rage, and illusion, must not be annihilated, but refined through fire and remembrance. And in Taoist inner alchemy, practitioners worked not to suppress their inner demons, but to digest them, transmuting fear into wisdom, anger into power, lust into vitality. Then came the modern era where we split the self into compartments. We pushed the unwanted into the unconscious and called it normal. But it never disappeared. It simply waited. In our reactions, addictions, relationships, and self-sabotage. It was Carl Jung who reintroduced the ancient knowing, cloaked in psychological language. That there is no wholeness without the shadow. That those who suppress it project it. And those who dare to integrate it become individuated, complete, and real. But Jung merely hinted at something older. The ancients didn't just talk about the shadow. They practiced merging with it. Not as therapy, but as initiation. They knew the true spiritual evolution does not happen through denial or escape into bliss. It happens when light penetrates the cave of the unconscious and turns it into a cathedral of consciousness. This was the core of many mystery schools, from Eleusinian rites to Gnostic initiations. The journey inward, the descent into the underworld, the shaman's dark night, all symbolic of one deeper truth. Before the soul can ascend, it must reclaim the parts of itself it abandoned. And so, shadow merging is not a modern invention. It is the forgotten rite, a sacred science lost beneath centuries of fear and false piety. And now we are remembering. To understand shadow merging, we must first understand what the shadow truly is. The shadow is not evil. It is not demonic nor inherently dark in the moral sense. It is simply the unacknowledged, the rejected, the forgotten parts of ourselves. It is every impulse we were told not to feel, every desire we were punished for, every fear we never learned to face, every truth we buried to survive. Imagine a grand cathedral filled with stained glass windows, but half of them have been boarded up, not broken, just hidden. The shadow is not destruction. It is unlit potential. And shadow merging is the act of unboarding those windows, of allowing light to shine not only in the places we approve of, but also where we were once ashamed to look. Waxing crescent moon, what is shadow merging? Shadow merging is not confrontation. It is not battle. It is communion. In traditional shadow work, the focus is often psychological: recognize your flaws, name your triggers, and manage your behavior. But shadow merging in the esoteric sense is energetic and alchemical. It is the invitation of the shadowed aspects of the self to return to the light of your awareness, not to be judged, but to be embraced and integrated. Just as an alchemist turns lead into gold, the mystic turns guilt into compassion, rage into courage, lust into life force, fear into divine awe. This practice views the shadow not as an intruder, but as a missing ally. The shadow as the double. In many esoteric traditions, the shadow was not seen as abstract, but as an entity. A double. An inner twin who walks beside you, mirroring your hidden nature. In esoteric Kabbalah, it is the qliphothic self, the shells of the ego that must be penetrated to reach divine unity. In ancient Greek thought, it was the eidolon, the ghost self, shaped by our denied emotions. In Jungian psychology, it is the dark brother, the part of the psyche that acts out our unlived life in dreams and projections. These traditions teach that this double is not an enemy, but the gatekeeper to deeper wisdom and power. Fire suppression versus integration. When we suppress the shadow, it becomes chaotic, dangerous. It leaks into our lives unconsciously, in outbursts, addictions, compulsions, and cycles of suffering. But when we invite it in, when we sit with it, listen to it, let it speak, it becomes a guide. The anger you suppress becomes inner fire when embraced. The fear you deny becomes instinctual wisdom. The desire you're ashamed of becomes passion for life itself. Shadow merging is not about indulging your impulses. It's about finding their true origin and honoring their original purpose. Cyclone, the ritual frame. In ancient mystery traditions, this process was often ritualized. Through symbolic descent, solitude, mirrors, masks, and darkness, initiates were made to face themselves. Not their persona, but their essence. In modern terms, this can mean guided visualization, conscious journaling, breath work, or dream decoding. But the key is intention. You are not fixing yourself. You are reclaiming yourself. Just as you cannot be truly loved until you are fully seen, you cannot be truly powerful until you are fully present with all parts of yourself. In part 2, we will go deeper. We will uncover the specific layers of the shadow, explore how to identify its disguises, and learn the secret esoteric principles behind true inner alchemy. Because shadow merging is not one act. It is a journey of descent and return. And that journey is just beginning. New Moon Core Explanation Part 2. If shadow merging is the return of lost parts of the soul, then understanding its structure is essential. The shadow is not a single entity, it is a layered architecture, a temple of mirrors built over time through memory, emotion, and repression. To merge with it, we must learn to navigate it, step by step, layer by layer. Whole layer 1, the personal shadow. This is the most accessible layer. Here dwell the parts of you that were judged, punished, or invalidated by family, society, or peers. The angry child, the jealous friend, the awkward adolescent, the lover who was too vulnerable, too intense, too much. These are the aspects of self we pushed away to be accepted. And they are the easiest to reclaim because they are closest to the surface. But beware, this is also the layer where we perform spiritual bypassing, where we tell ourselves we've healed because we've acknowledged the pain without actually feeling it. Shadow merging here is about emotional honesty. Letting that part of you speak, cry, rage, laugh, and then welcoming it back not as a flaw, but as sacred essence. Tornado Layer 2, the archetypal shadow. This layer goes deeper. Here live the universal patterns, the ancient forces we all carry regardless of culture or upbringing. The destroyer, the seducer, the trickster, the victim, the tyrant, the exile. These are not simply emotions or behaviors. They are archetypes, primordial energies that shape the soul. Most people project these onto others because they refuse to accept them as part of their own human blueprint. But the mystic asks, what if I contain all of them? What if the tyrant in me is simply the part that was never taught how to lead with integrity? What if the seducer is the raw force of life-seeking creative union? Shadow merging here is not about denial or approval. It is about witnessing without flinching. Drop of blood layer 3, the ancestral shadow. Some shadows are not born in this lifetime. They are inherited. Science now confirms what shamans always knew. Trauma, emotion, even fear can be passed down epigenetically. In this layer, you may feel shame that has no origin in your personal life, or a fear that seems to echo across centuries. This is where ancestral patterns repeat until someone becomes conscious enough to break them. You are not just healing for yourself, you are cleansing the bloodline. In esoteric traditions, this often required rituals of purification, names of the forgotten dead, or dream journeys to commune with the unresolved spirits. Today, it can begin with awareness, with the simple but profound realization. This pain may not be mine, but I am the one called to end it. Handle layer 4, the collective shadow. This is the deepest and most hidden layer. Here lie the taboos of the human species: genocide, greed, addiction, ecocide, domination. These are not just problems out there. They are tendencies that live within the collective unconscious, and each of us carries a trace. To look at this shadow is to gaze into the abyss of humanity's potential for destruction, but also its capacity for redemption. Few reach this layer in personal practice, but those who do often become visionaries, activists, healers, and true spiritual teachers, because they have faced not only their darkness, but the darkness of all. DNA, the alchemical core. Energy cannot be destroyed. Shadow merging ultimately rests on this truth. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. The energy locked inside your shadow is not evil. It is raw, unrefined, misguided, like fire with no hearth, like a storm with no rain. When we fear our anger, we give it power. When we shame our desires, they distort. But when we meet them with open awareness, they become fuel for awakening. The occult traditions always taught that energy is neither good nor bad. It is the intention, the ritual, and the consciousness that determines its use. Shadow merging is therefore not a cleansing. It is a consecration. You are not removing something from yourself. You are restoring what was exiled. You are becoming whole again. In the next section, we will shift from theory to practice. You will learn specific steps, techniques, and rituals to begin your own journey of shadow merging. Simple enough to try today. Powerful enough to change your inner world forever. Hammer and wrench practical application. Shadow merging, though ancient and mystical, is not reserved for temples or secret societies. You don't need robes, incense, or a hidden cave. What you need is willingness, honesty, and a sacred space of awareness. Here's how you can begin the journey right now. Step 1. Create a ritual space of non-judgment. Before any merging can occur, you must cultivate a space, both external and internal, where judgment is suspended. Find a quiet place. Dim the lights. Light a candle if you wish. Keep a journal nearby. Say aloud or silently, "Whatever arises, I welcome. I do not seek to fix, only to feel. All of me is allowed here." This simple invocation opens the door for the shadow to emerge, not with shame, but with trust. Shadow invocation practice. Sit in stillness. Breathe gently. Now speak or write. What part of me have I refused to see? What emotion have I labeled as wrong? Who in my life triggers me the most and why? Let the answers come without censoring. This is the voice of the shadow, revealing itself. As it speaks, notice what arises in your body. Tightness, heat, grief, or fear. These are signs of buried energy returning to the surface. Black Heart Step 3. Dialogue with the shadow. Now imagine that part of you. The angry child, the jealous lover, the fearful dreamer. sitting across from you. Look into their eyes. Ask, "What do you want me to know? How long have you been waiting for me? What would happen if I accepted you?" Write their answers. Let them speak fully. Don't interrupt. Don't explain. Just listen. This is not imagination, it is integration through presence. DNA Step 4. Energetic Integration Ritual. Once the dialogue is complete, close your eyes. Visualize a light of gold or violet emanating from your heart. Extend it gently to the shadow part. Let the light wrap around them. Let them merge into your body, through the chest, the head, or wherever you feel them most. Say, "You are me. I am you. Together, we are whole." Breathe deeply as you feel the energy settle. The Mirror Journal. After each session, journal what happened. Write not just the insights, but the feelings, the discomfort, the resistances. Track your patterns. When do they arise? What triggers them? How do they shift when seen? Shadow merging is not a one-time event. It is a discipline like meditation or prayer. The more often you do it, the more your life transforms. Seeding ongoing integration practices. Dream tracking. Shadows often appear in dreams. Keep a journal by your bed. Ask before sleep, "What part of me needs integration tonight?" Embodiment. Move with the emotion. Dance your rage. Walk your grief. Make space for the body to process what the mind cannot. Art and sigils. Draw your shadow. Create symbols to honor its return. Ritual art was always part of the esoteric traditions because the subconscious speaks in symbols. Person lotus position. Common challenges. Fear of what you'll find. Remember, the shadow is not here to hurt you, it wants to be seen. You've already survived its exile. Now you're healing its return. Resistance or numbness. Be patient. The shadow has been hiding for years, maybe lifetimes. Consistent practice builds safety. Shame. This is the residue of cultural programming. Whenever shame arises, meet it with compassion. Say, "You are allowed. You are human. You are sacred. You are not broken. You are layered." Shadow merging is not about perfection, it's about wholeness. When the inner family is unified, you become something extraordinary. A being who can stand in the dark and radiate light. We spend so much of our lives chasing the light, seeking peace, transcendence, enlightenment. But what if the true threshold to awakening lies not above us, but within the dark we avoid? The ancients knew what modern seekers often forget. The shadow is not your enemy. It is your invitation. It is the unloved child, the forgotten ancestor, the disowned desire. It is your rage in disguise, your shame wearing a mask, your lost power waiting to return home. To merge with it is not to be consumed. It is to become complete. You were never meant to shine only half of your light. You were never meant to walk this world severed from yourself. The fire you fear may be the very light you need to see clearly. Shadow merging is not about darkness for its own sake. It is about integration, the sacred reunion of opposites. When you hold both the light and the dark in your heart, you become the whole temple. You become the living symbol of divine balance. So the next time fear rises, or anger flashes, or shame knocks at your door, do not turn away. Turn toward. Open your arms. Ask, "What part of me are you?" And listen. You might be surprised by what returns. The practice is ancient. The knowledge is timeless. The journey is yours now. Welcome to the forgotten path. Welcome to the sacred descent. Welcome to shadow merging. If this resonated with you, let it sit in silence for a while. Then return, rewatch, reread, re-enter. This is not a video. It is a mirror.